Twin Peaks is one of the most iconic TV shows in television history, and nearly 30 years later, it is still influencing pop culture to this day, with shows like Gravity Falls and The Killing to video games like Deadly Premonition and Alan Wake. Twin Peaks will forever remain a highly influential series and one of my personal favorites. So let's count down some of the most interesting facts about the show. Multiple endings to Laura Palmer's murder were filmed. Ultimately, Twin Peaks was never really meant to be about Laura Palmer's murder. Frost and Lynch simply intended that mystery to serve as the catalyst for them exploring all the weird characters of the town, the darkness beneath the light, and the secrets that everybody was keeping, which come out one by one as the investigation continued, and Cooper stuck his nose into all sorts of strange and wonderful places. If only viewers and the network agreed. The proportion of the audience clamoring for an answer to who killed Laura Palmer were enough to convince ABC that Frost and Lynch didn't know what they were doing, leading them to insist they wrap the case up halfway through the second season, leaving the show stranded without a central reason for people to keep watching or to propel the plot forward. Still, even if it ruined the show, the reveal was one of the most closely guarded secrets in television history. So much so that to prevent leaks, several different takes of Maddie Ferguson's murder, which eventually lead to Laura's killer, were filmed, with killers including an insane Ben Horne.
Sometimes the urge to do bad is nearly overpowering.
One with Bob as a separate entity.
Welcome to the killer's lair.
And one with Leland. If that seems like a lot of work, bear in mind a German network canceled the show after a rival channel spoiled the identity of Laura's murder. While Laura Palmer was the character who the whole series revolved around, at least at first, she didn't actually appear all that much. By virtue of the first episode opens with her murder, actress Sheryl Lee was on board to film her uncovering, wrapped in plastic, along with appearances in that home video seized as evidence. But mostly her appearances in the show boiled down to that one prom photo of her, which is Lee's actual prom photo. Lynch thought it was a shame that an actress of Lee's caliber would be so underused by the show, once he realized how good she was, and so he devised a way to keep her around, which is how Laura Palmer's cousin, Maddie Ferguson, was cooked up. She wasn't originally planned to appear at all, and it should be noted that Lynch's personal affinity for Lee as an actress and Maddie Ferguson as a character was reflected in her backstory. She's said to be from Missoula, Montana, which is actually David Lynch's hometown, which probably isn't a coincidence. Sheryl Lee later reprised her role as Laura at a greater length for Fire Walk With Me, the movie spin-off. Fire Walk With Me was booed at the 1992 Cannes Film Festival and bombed at the US box office. Owen Gleiberman of Entertainment Weekly quotes, "This movie is a true folly. Almost nothing in it adds up, yet it isn't jokey and smug like Lynch's last film, Wild at Heart, or his recent TV series, The Gruesomely Whacked Out On the Air, which seemed to pick up where the disastrous second half of Twin Peaks left off. There have always been two sides to Lynch, the inscrutable demonic prankster and the rhapsodic dreamer. In Fire Walk With Me, he's at least trying to recover his poetic sincerity, if only his dreams weren't starting to look like reruns." The Queen was a fan. The show's soundtrack composer, Angelo Badalamenti, was invited by former Beatle Paul McCartney to jam with him at the famous Abbey Road Studios in London. While there, McCartney said that he had recently performed a 40-minute set at Buckingham Palace for the Queen's birthday, except Her Majesty didn't bother sticking around to see the performance, greeting him and then apologizing for her sudden need to leave the room because it was 5 of 8, and she had to go watch TV because Twin Peaks was about to start. Not only was the Queen a fan of the show, but the president of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, was also a big fan. So much so that he persuaded George H.W. Bush, president of the US at the time, to help him unearth who killed Laura Palmer. The population of Twin Peaks was originally only supposed to be 5,120, not 51,201. However, there was a backlash against rural-themed shows at the time, as networks were fearful that the burgeoning urban and suburban population of America would not be able to sympathize with the shows set in small farming or industrial towns, so ABC requested that the sign read 51,201. In A Visitor's Guide to Twin Peaks, a tie-in book authorized by creators David Lynch and Mark Frost, a note tells readers that the population was indeed 5,120, but the sign had a typo. Some of the most bizarre scenes in Twin Peaks, and any show ever really if you ask me, were the bizarre dream sequences that Cooper had. Those bizarre vocal patterns in the Red Room were achieved by having the actors read their lines in reverse, and then re-reversing them in post.
Thanks for watching.